Oh, I've got a round of applause this time. Great. Hi, my name's Harry, and I help people become superhuman. Yes, it's a great conversation starter, isn't it? And I believe that there's a superhero in you too. And I help organisations and people within organisations that work at companies like yours to really discover the superhuman powers within them so that they can become better leaders themselves. And today's talk is called Dawn of the Super Leader because I believe in the next few minutes I'm going to share with you what I think is the missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to leadership and what needs to be a focus going forward so that we can really operate at our best. Okay, so I've always had a fascination with superheroes ever since I was a young kid, and now getting, as an adult, closer to my 40s than my 30s, early 30s anyway. It doesn't seem to be waning, and I think for a lot of people it seems to be the case if I judge it based on the success of all the comic book movies are out and all the franchises. Everyone seems to be fascinated with being a superhero or that idea of it. And so it really resonates with me because I believe, like I said, that there's some superpower within each and every one of us and that sometimes we just need to unlock that. And the leader of today, I think, needs to transform. They need to really uncover their superpowers and be able to show those because the leader of today, and when I say superhero or superhuman, I don't mean someone who's perfect, someone who's infallible, someone who's invincible. I mean someone who can inspire, someone who can lead, yes, but someone who has got access to their own superpowers as well. So I'm, like I said, I always liked being, like the idea of a superhero, and I'm curious to know. My favourite superhero was Superman, still is. Why not? He's like the most powerful one out there. But I'm curious to know, and this is going to be a bit of an audience participation time. I want you in a second to turn to your neighbour, preferably someone you haven't met before, and I want you just to spend 30 seconds to explain what your superpower would be. So turn to your neighbour and just explain what your superpower would be. So just a little bit of feedback, and these needn't have been like the classic superpowers of flight or invincibility. It might be that you just want to have a power of spotting a liar when you see one, or being able to scan and read your emails and just respond to the important ones. So I want a couple of people who are brave enough to put their hand up and just shout out what were the superpowers.
Create more time.
Create more time. Oh, wouldn't we all want that? Yeah. Anyone else? Invisibility. Yeah.
Bring magic in the room.
Bring magic in the room. I'm sure you can do that anyway. Anything else?
The ability to communicate so effectively that I just blow everybody away.
And I think that can be possible as well. I think all of these things are possible. Even invisibility, because sometimes we are a little bit invisible when we need to maybe be a bit more visible. So it might be something that we're already doing anyway. So the point is, it's a little bit of a fun icebreaker, but just to give you a bit of background on my story. I used to work in the city. I used to work first in the legal area, and then I worked for Accenture at the London Stock Exchange. I spent a number of years there, and we were working in a very kind of vibrant time, I say, putting it politely, but during that financial crisis, there was a lot going on, a lot of activity, and really what I discovered was that the leaders of tomorrow need to be better equipped than where they are right now. There seems to be a focus on leadership skills, but I think that we're missing the trick with some of them. And through my journey of discovery on myself, and I'll share a bit more of that in a second, I developed something which I think really resonates with people and helps them become better versions of themselves. So I think, who was here in the morning, who came to all the morning sessions? Everyone? So you guys, if this was a pop quiz, you'd get it all right anyway. But the thing is that we live in what was termed earlier today as a vuuka environment, borrowed from the military, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. And that's just a fancy way of saying that things are changing. We know this. I mean, this has always been the case. Life is a continuous change. But, okay, we've put some terminology around it. But the thing is that I think that maybe things aren't working as well as they could be. We have some stats were given earlier, which are probably less, more generous than these ones. I'm not sure. But 40% of leaders rated their organisation's leadership as high, according to this study. And only... Let's see if the clicker's working. 1 in 4 HR professionals rated the quality of their leaders as high. We've got some clicking going on here. And what's the next one? There we go. 15% of organisations thought that their leaders were ready to step into leadership positions. So clearly, I don't think we've got the whole picture. Some improvements are needed when it comes to leadership, because it was echoed this morning as well in this morning's talk, and that's why you're all here now, because we know we're people that want to learn and grow. So some improvements are needed. Okay. This is the old way versus the new way, as I perceive it anyway, when it comes to leadership. I've got like no line of sight here with my clicker, so hence I'm going to have to stretch my arms. But before, we used to promote, or currently do, still promote people who are technically good at their job. And I think, yes, these people need to be recognised as well, but I think in terms of promotion and bringing new leaders, it's about bringing people who are good with other people as well, good with themselves, can lead themselves. We have this idea of increased competencies, horizontal development, where we're kind of putting more things on people. And I believe that really what we need to be focused on is a vertical development and developing that self. So you're going deep before they can start putting on all these other competencies. Before, it was a say and they will do it, and we have probably got experience of that where an initiative comes, we've put something great in place, and we say, okay, do it, take you for lunch hour, go use the gym, do whatever it might be, but people don't do it because, like children, they do what they see, they don't do what they're told. And so it's the same thing. The leader needs to be someone who is really embodying the change that they want to see in their employees. And I don't believe that that's currently happening. A lot of people know the what of leading, the strategy, the planning, all of these kind of great tools, but they don't really know the how of leadership. And really it's about knowing the what and the how of leadership. And I guess lastly, in my view anyway, there's a lot about leading other people first, attempting to lead other people, putting them in their positions of authority. Whereas, and this is really the main message and the focus of this talk, is I believe that it's about self-leadership. My philosophy is this: if you want to lead other people, the first person you need to be able to lead is yourself. I hope that makes common sense. But to lead yourself, you need to be what I call on point, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Nothing works in isolation. Everything is part of the whole system. And so if you really want to be the best leader of other people, you need to be the best leader of yourself. It's an inside-out approach. And I think a lot of people try and stack things on top, around, give people all these skills. But yet if you work on the self and you focus internally what's going on and the skills within yourself, then everything will ripple out. And then the change happens a lot easier. I'm a coach, and one of my bugbears at the beginning was, you always try and change other people, and the fact of the matter is you can't change anyone. That's the truth. Okay, you can't. Gandhi said it: be the change you want to see in the world. It might be a cliche to say that now, but it's so true, and we keep forgetting that. But we keep thinking we can change other people. We can't really. We can just change ourselves, and then through that change within ourselves, people will then see that, respect that, be inspired by that, and then change themselves. That's the key to change. It's like, you've all been on an aeroplane, right? You all know that if the oxygen masks come down, you put it over yourself before you put it on someone else. You first got to rescue yourself so that you can then help other people. We're trying to do it the wrong way around at the moment, in my experience, a lot of cases. Another way of looking at it is like this. You've got a state-of-the-art machine, at least for 1984, and it's great, it's beautiful, it's kind of world-class, but yet we try and run these more advanced programs onto an older operating system and older hardware. And at some point, all these fancy new tools, these new leadership tools, all these new gadgets, technology, everything to make us more productive, more efficient, better communicators, they're just tools. They're just tools that we're putting on to a system which needs to be really upgraded, because sooner or later, something's going to happen. Someone's going to get burnt out, someone's going to quit, someone's going to be late on a project, make a poor decision, whatever it will be, but at some point in the future, an error is going to occur. So what's the answer? There's an obvious answer, I think, when you look at it, this metaphor anyway. Who can tell me what the answer will be? I'm going to reveal it on the next slide, so you won't be in suspense very long. Who can tell me? What's the obvious answer? You want to run more advanced programs, and what do you need to do? So, upgrade, yeah. Yeah, you need to upgrade. You need to upgrade the software and hardware. You could equate maybe the hardware to the physical body, the software, the mental side of yourself. You've got to upgrade that hardware, that software, that operating system, so that it can then run these programs which are great and fancy and new. You put that on top of something that's already working, not on something that's not working. So the leader of tomorrow is going to have lots of things thrown at them. And this is what I mean by super leader. It's not that you're never going to get, your own bit of kryptonite affect you sometimes, but there's a lot of things that are happening in leadership that you need to really be able to kind of have resilience against, have that focus, that productivity. So you need to become that super leader, and you can only really do that when you yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, are on point, tuned into your own superpowers. What is it that new leaders need to master? Back to a bit of my story. So I was working at the stock exchange, and I left there after several years of being there, and I went on a journey, and I started discovering, interacting with, meeting, interviewing, reading about, observing high-performing individuals in a number of different sectors, away from the business world and within the business world. And what I found was quite exciting, because it shifted my paradigm, it shifted my thinking, and what I noticed were that there were certain patterns. Okay, it's kind of obvious in a way, but successful people, successful leaders did similar things. They didn't all do the same things, but what I did is I noticed, okay, well, 7 out of 10 seem to be doing this. Let me take that on board. 6 out of 10 do this. 9 out of 10 do this. There's a pattern. And so after a while, I started taking on all of these different attributes that these different people were doing, keeping what worked and dropped what didn't work. And what I noticed was massive changes in my own personal life, from my energy, my health, my vitality, my productivity, my relationships with others, my ability to focus, even like my quality of sleep, whatever it was, everything that impacts how you show up in the world improved by adopting various attributes that really were out there anyway, that other people are doing. Okay? And then after a while I was thinking, well, okay, this is great, and I've made all these improvements, and I started to share it, I started to train, started to coach, put courses out, started working with organisations like yourselves, where I can then teach their up-and-coming leaders and existing leaders, but really how they can stay in the game long term. And I kind of codified it, I put it into a framework, which I'm going to share with you briefly now, because each section itself is quite deep, to make it easy and simple and accessible for people that they can use on a day-to-day basis. And the first thing really, and all change, everything happens, it all starts with your thinking. So my first section is called B for brain, but it's really about your psychology, your mindset. And until you start changing that, shifting that paradigm, and understanding how your mind works, not just why you do things, but how it is that you're doing things, that's when you can really make changes. Everything starts with a thought. And how does your thinking and your mindset lead to your success? Your mind is very powerful, and it has the potential to give you better results than you previously might have thought of. So right now, we're going to do a bit of interaction. I want everybody up on their feet. It's all right, don't be scared. Up on your feet, drop all your pens and papers. And I want you, at the moment, so I want you to stand up. I want your feet nice and forward, nice and loose, whatever. And I want you to raise your right hand and point your finger at me. It's all right, I won't get offended. Well, actually, just point it front rather than at me. I'll be in the middle, but just point it dead straight, so you're dead straight, just like the guy in the picture. And I want you now just to turn clockwise or to your right, as far as you can go, keeping your feet exactly where they are, and just notice where you go, and notice what you're pointing at. Okay? Right, now I want you to come back to the middle. Okay? And I want you to put your arms down. I want you to close your eyes now. So close your eyes, and just in your mind's eye, everyone close your eyes, in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine lifting your hand and pointing it again. Okay, now I want you just to imagine rotating round to the right, clockwise, like you did before. I want you to see your finger, see what you're pointing at, notice as you work around there, going further past the point you just saw. Imagine your body is nice and loose and fluid and relaxed like a rubber band as you keep going further round, 50% more, almost that you're going almost all the way around. And then I want you in your mind's eye just to come back and lower your hand. Now I want you to open your eyes. I want you to put your finger up again. And I want you to rotate round to the right, clockwise. Keep going. Okay, then come back. Take a seat. Hands up who went further that time. Kind of most of the room. Who went a lot further? Quite a few people. This is interesting because nothing really changed. Just our perception about what was possible because we used something in our minds, our imagination, our visualization. Like I say, this part of the section, the B for brain section, is very deep. You can kind of do a PhD all in it. But really it's about helping your leaders understand and manage their minds so that they can have the success and the results they want. The second part of this model is what's called E for elements. Who knows what the 4 elements are? The old style 4 elements. Shout it out. Fire, water, air, and earth. So the way I have it is air, water, earth, and fire. There's a picture here of some food. Earth is around food. And I just want to, like I say, these sections are very big and I'm going to just give you a little brief understanding. But how we nourish our body really is all about elements. So from the air, water, earth, and fire, how we nourish our bodies. And if we think that the nourishment doesn't play a part, I've got a little graph to show you on the next slide. Many people are a victim of kind of grabbing food on the go, and this isn't like a nutritional talk, but food is so important and how you access it, because once you change what you eat as well, everything changes. Everything changes for you. But here's an interesting picture. Some of you may have seen it before. For those of you that haven't, what it is it's a culmination of around 1,000 parole hearings in Israel, undertaken by about 8 judges over a 10-month period, seeing between 14 and 35 cases per day. And this is your probability of getting parole, judged by people who make critical, life-changing decisions, supposedly objectively, and think that they have no outside influence other than the facts that are coming into them. But yet you see that at the beginning of the session, you have like 70-80% chance of getting paroled. As they started to wane and get hungry and go towards their mid-morning snack, your chances started to go down. Then they get refueled, your chance of parole goes up again. By the end of lunch, after lunch, you've got no chance you're going back to prison basically. Now, these are people who think that they're making objective decisions based on the facts in front of them. So imagine you and your leaders and your people in your organisation making these decisions, maybe not life or death like for these judges, but maybe it is. And even the small decisions and how they ripple out and affect things, because they're not fueling themselves properly, because they don't know the elements portion of my beat model really effectively. Okay, so you should be able to guess the next letter because I've kind of spelled out what it works, but it's activity. And activity isn't, although there's a picture of a person hiking in this picture, activity is not really just about, let's wait for this thing to come up, it's not really about just exercise, just movement. It's really about everything that you do with your day. From your interactions, whether you've got passion, purpose, service, connection, how you ritualize your day, all of these things are your activity. And once you get this all dialed in, everything changes. But let's look at exercise for a second because a lot of people can relate to that, or let's look at movement. And there's some research come out of Stanford University that showed that just by walking increased their participants' creativity by 60%. And this didn't matter whether you were walking on a treadmill looking at a blank wall or whether you were outside in nature. You know, the tasks that were then asked of them were their creativity boosted by 60%. So imagine just doing that. And obviously Steve Jobs was very famous for holding walk-in meetings. And maybe some of you guys have adopted things like that, but it boosted creativity. A massive study out of Sweden following 1 million males for 40 years from the ages of about 15 to 55 showed that there's a direct correlation between the exercise and boosting the brain cell activity and production of brain cells, and also IQ. So who wouldn't want smarter, more creative, innovative leaders? Anyone doesn't want it? No, you've all got your hands down, which means you all want that. So these are simple things, but like I say, with activity is a big section that we can cover. Okay, and the last section, which is something that a lot of people seem to skip on, a lot of people seem to miss, is that of what I call tranquility. So tranquility is all about how you rest, renew, rejuvenate your body, your mind, everything else, so that you can become the best person that you can possibly be. So you can be on point, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And most people miss this element. And it's not just about sleep, although that's part of it, but there's, whether that's meditation, whether that's kind of fasting and giving your body time to relax, whatever it might be, there's so much within tranquility to help boost your levels of energy, focus, productivity, vitality. But let's look at sleep for a second. So this is a study, the facts are from a study of surgeons, showing that one night of sleep deprivation for surgeons made them take 14% longer to do the tasks that they were doing and make 20% more errors. So I don't know about you, but who wants to spend longer at work making more mistakes so that you can then correct them later? Not me. And this is just from one night of sleep deprivation. So imagine people who are chronically sleep deprived. They're waking up in the night, they can't get sleep, they wake up tired. I see this all the time. And the fact of the matter is, there are ways that you can improve this beyond a shadow of a doubt without the need of like medications or gizmos or technology or anything. But most people don't know this. And I personally used to struggle with sleep. I've made certain changes, again, following the patterns. I'm not a genius, I'm just following the patterns, and just you can make improvements. So we have my solution, which really covers the mental, physical, emotional and spiritual part of a person so that they can then become the best possible leader that they can be. So it's B for brain, E for elements, A for activity, and T for tranquility, what I call the leadership beat model. And what I like about it is it's simple, it's something I focus on day to day. I think, if I'm living off beat today, what am I missing from the B, the E, the A, the T? What do I need to introduce into my life, into my day, into my month, whatever it might be, so that I can then perform at the top of my game? So just 2 seconds now, I want you just to turn to the new person next to you, and I want you to just come up with 1 or 2 ways that your benefit, your company or you personally would benefit from being on point mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. How would your life, your work, your results improve by doing that? By knowing that you're totally there, totally switched on. You are the kind of upgraded Mac rather than 1984 Mac. So just turn to a partner, spend 30 seconds. I want you just to come up with 1 or 2 ways in which your business, your life, your productivity would improve. Just 1 or 2 people, if you want to volunteer, how would your work, your business, your productivity, whatever it might be, increase if you were switched on mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually? Who wants to say what they come up with? Yeah.
I think decisions can be made faster because everyone's there in the moment, listening to the material rather than having to repeat yourself.
Yeah. So decisions are going to be made faster. People are going to be present. Presence is a massive thing these days. Absolutely, yes.
More effective meetings and therefore shorter meetings and shorter workdays.
Okay, so more effective meetings. Yeah. So there's a difference between being effective and efficient. Efficient doing things well, doing things right, but effective doing the right things. Absolutely, yeah.
More solution focused rather than moaning about everything that doesn't work.
Exactly, more solution focused, not moaning. Yeah.
People are healthier, they're less stressed, probably less illness in the workplace.
Exactly, less illness, more resilience. Essentially, we're being bombarded with stresses left, right, and centre. Environmental toxins, work toxins, relationship toxins, everything. So we need to be more resilient. 1 more, maybe. Someone else I thought had their hand up. No? Okay. Oh, yeah.
We were saying less drama.
Less drama. Absolutely, yeah. If we want drama, we can stick the TV on. We don't need to go to work, right? Okay, so I think everyone in the room can appreciate that when people are kind of turned on mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, that they generally have a better workplace. They have a better productivity, they have better results, and really my passion and my teachings really come from from the things that I learned and I want to share with people, because I know that, like I said, in order to lead other people, all these great little tools and stuff are great. They're fine. And I'm not saying we ditch them. But what I'm saying is that first it's an inside-out approach. You first need to be yourself switched on and able to lead, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and then you can add these nice gizmos on top. And that's what I love helping organisations do, and I'd love to speak to you guys. I'm around for the next couple of days on how I might be able to serve you in some way. And just taking away from this meeting alone, just remember it's about an inside-out approach to leadership, and it's about understanding the power of things like the BEAT model as a tool, just a tool to help you. But like I say, everyone thinks of changing the world, but don't think of changing themselves. And that's really the only person that you can change. So I think we might have a couple of minutes for some Q&A. So I welcome any questions right now. Or are you all just kind of... Are you hungry for lunch, aren't you? I know you've got lunch coming as well. No questions. Everyone knows everything that they need to know.
Yeah. Just in terms of kind of we're having a discussion here about corporate wellbeing programs, and I'm probably loud enough actually. So thank you. Corporate wellbeing programs versus your own personal agenda, which is like what you've been talking about. How do you see the two match together? Because I know organisations are trying to get some of this in place. Are they working? What's your view?
I think some organisations, and the ones that are doing it well, the results are obvious and it's in the profit. Those companies that are introducing more of a holistic method of leadership training are doing better. But I think where people think that, okay, I'm just a small cog, I don't make a difference, it doesn't fit into the picture as a whole, and this is something I say to a lot of my audiences, is that no single raindrop blames itself for the flood. See, we're all part of a bigger system. And we're all responsible. We're all responsible for how well our team performs, but then on a bigger scale, how our division performs, how our company forms. And that mindset is something that first needs to shift. That kind of personal responsibility mindset, which is one of the first things I would teach your employees, is around going away from this kind of victim mentality of powerless and saying, well, I can't change what's going on in the big world of this company because I'm just who I am, and just being at effect of some situation rather than being at cause to it, and just say, okay, what can I focus on? What can I change? What do I personally have the power to change? And the first thing you have to change is your mindset, your actions, and then your beliefs. And then you worry about everything else afterwards. So I know that organisations look to kind of try and fix the whole thing, and I think that's where we go wrong sometimes. Okay, any other questions? Other than what's for lunch? Yeah? Yeah?
Well, I can talk loud as well.
Yeah, you talk loudly. I can repeat it back if you need.
I have a question. I can see how this could be incredibly beneficial to individuals. And being 20 years in HR, I've seen, courses leading inside out. I've seen energy management classes, mindfulness, everything. And a lot of the times, what happens, 50% of people that actually go to the classes, they leave the organizations, and so the organizations sort of stop doing those. Is there any way where you've seen the change to happen on a more systemic and organization-wide basis?
Well, I think just to answer the first point, though, is this idea of this, and I've seen this before, is this kind of scarcity mindset where we can empower and we can put all this stuff with our people. And this is where I think is a big problem with leadership, is they don't really, in my experience anyway, want to give people total empowerment. They don't want to give them too much of the tools and the keys, because then they'll open the door and walk out. And that scarcity mindset is what falters a lot of organisations. Whereas if you embrace the fact that, yes, you are going to get people who are going to leave. They're going to take the skills that you're giving them and they're going to leave. And that's going to happen. And that's fine, because maybe they're not right for your organisation. But maybe if you embrace that, and I've seen this in other companies, where they give them all the training and then they go off a couple of years, then they realise just how great that company was. They come back, they have more of a world experience, which I think, imagine if you had someone who spent 5 years at Cisco, but then went and spent the next 5 years at all the different competitors and then came back to Cisco, how much more beneficial that person would be, because they value the experience that they got at Cisco. So I think we should move away from this kind of scarcity model of thinking, well, if I give them all this training, then they might just leave. And what was the second part really that you said? Or is that answering it?
So I agree with the scarcity model. The point is, like, I've seen now more organizations struggle how to bring it and make it live in the organization.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, it starts inside out. So your leaders need to be brought into this. Your leaders need to be seen to be executing the things that they're learning. And that's when people will start doing things. Do as I do, not as I say. I mean, if you just say to people, right, we're going to bring in this guy, he's going to teach everyone this great stuff, and then they go all out, inspired, hyped up, and for a month it works, but then they see their manager saying, well, actually, no, we've got this really important meeting now, so we can't go and spend our 15 minutes to go and have a walk-in meeting or meditation or whatever it might be. It's all going to drift. So it really needs to be brought in from the top level as well, rather than just from the lower levels, really. And I think that's when you start introducing that as a culture, that's when it changes. But also, part of the work I do is really about shifting that mindset, because a lot of people will, how many people have kind of joined the gym in January and then given up by kind of February? And they do this year after year after year, or start a diet and finish it like within a couple of days, because fundamentally the mindset hasn't shifted. So we need to shift that mindset, reframe it, understand how the mind works, and kind of shift the perceptions that people have about whether that's introducing a new policy, new strategy, or whether that's introducing a new behaviour. I think a lot of organisations do their best, but they operate at a behavioural level. People are kind of, maybe they're with wellness, for example, they're putting the Fitbits on, they're putting the gyms in, but if this is changing at a behavioural level, it's not changing at an identity or values-based level for most people, and therefore it won't work. And also, if they're putting all these fancy things in and their leaders aren't doing it, then everyone else is not going to do it either. Okay. Anything else before I hand over back to the chair? No?
All right.
All right, thank you.
Round of applause for Harry.
Thank you.